Hey listeners, this is Ken Kell, and when I'm not calling the action on the ice for the Red Wings, I'm listening to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
All right, Doc here for the Detroit Beard Collective. Are you rocking a beard this spring, cuz? Is your beard feeling dry, scaly? Could the flyaway hairs use some taming? Does your beard have leftover food in it? You can't be rocking a beard like that these days. There's companies out there that help you groom your beard in a nice, tight way. Go to DetroitBeardCollective.com, a Detroit company that provides quality beard care products. Go to their website, DetroitBeardCollective.com, and check out the many items that they sell. Beard care sets, combs, Detroit Beard Collective t-shirts, or the very popular Beard Crate, which is a comprehensive beard care set which allows you to choose your favorite Detroit Beard Collective product, all for one great price. DetroitBeardCollective.com.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listening to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
All I want to know is if you got your popcorn ready. Do you got your popcorn ready?
5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes!
I said, are you strong? They said, I'm strong if you strong. And I said, we strong then.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Darren McCarty gets his shots in at Claude Lemieux. And look who came all the way out to try to help. Patrick Waugh. Oh, my goodness.
You are listening to the DocNJock Show on the Detroit Sports Podcast.
Often imitated, never duplicated. Welcome, everybody, to the 100th episode of the DocNJock Sports Podcast. I am the Doc, John Macaroon, and joining me is my cousin, my co-host for the majority of the DocNJock podcasts, Adam the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz?
What do you mean the majority? There were 2 that I missed because I was over in the Dominican Republic or I was trapped in New Jersey. What do you mean the majority? Almost every single one of these, 99.9% of the time, actually, it'd be 98% of the time, I show up here with my pants on, ready to do the dang thing.
Can you believe we've made it to 100 podcast episodes, breaking down a wide variety of Detroit sports topics? We've covered the Lions for a couple seasons, the Tigers, head coaches being fired, being brought on, so many things, all the great guests that we've got a chance to talk to. Now, with a studio here, we get a chance to have great guests come in here, have a lot of laughs. It's just truly been a fun experience for this ride, and I hope we get to do several hundred more. But we've made it to 100 episodes on this podcast, and every single thing that we said we were going to do, we've done. We've gotten a studio. We have said we want to take phone calls. We want to interact with people. Boom, we got a phone system, and I think when people listen, I think a true compliment is a lot of people say, in terms of podcasting, the DocNJock podcast in Detroit ranks up there. That's all I can say. It makes me happy, and I'm looking forward to doing many, many more. We've done 100 podcast episodes. Amazing stuff.
I want to give you all the credit for, well, actually, I want to give you a lot of the credit. I want to give you all the credit, because if I give you all the credit, it's all going to go to your head, and I'm not going to have any room in this room here, because your head's going to fill it. But this has been your brainchild. This has been your baby. And you invited me on to sit there and kind of help you with it a little bit. Let's be honest, you do most of the heavy lifting for this. I just kind of help put shows together. I show up and I argue with you, and then when things need to be discussed, I discuss things with you. But for the most part, this is your child. This has been your baby, and this is where we're at, man. I mean, we've got a studio. We can take calls. We interact with people. The people we're kind of known. Yeah. I mean, not really, but kind of. It's an interesting, weird paradox that we're in. It's awesome, dude. It's great.
Yeah, outside of the confines of a radio studio, we can talk to anybody at any time. We control this, and we've had a chance to talk to journalists. We've had a chance to talk to the writers in town, breaking down the NFL draft, and we've had a chance to now have guests come in like Dennis Farrell talking about fantasy football. We've had a chance to talk to actors. Jerry Ferrara came on and broke down Matthew Stafford and talked about the filming. When he came on the podcast earlier, he came on just after wrapping filming the movie Entourage, so he gave us a little bit of insight. So really anything that we've wanted to do, now we can just take, like I said, continue to build this thing forward. have more great chats, break down Detroit sports, and hopefully one of these podcasts, we can be on the verge of some big-time major success for one of these Detroit sports teams, and we can have a whole hell of a lot of fun when we have success. Because right now, with the majority of the teams, and we've talked about it a while back, they're kind of all in the rebuild phase, kind of all in the retooling phase with the Lions, Pistons. The Wings, I think, are the closest to having big-time success, but Michigan State has come a long way. Michigan is kind of now on the verge of coming back to where they need to be. So the teams right now in Detroit are kind of in that middle ground, trying to reach that next step, and we're looking forward to the time when there's great success here in Detroit so we can break it all down.
I like how you totally bypass the Tigers and all their struggles that they have going on. We're going to set goals, and that's what you talked about. You talked about setting goals and how we sit and we raise the bar for ourselves. Going forward, the next step is to get either a big-time athlete either in here or on the phone with us, or to get a big-time head coach either in here or on the phone. And I think that's where we're going to go. I think that's what we're shooting for. So hopefully by 150, we accomplish that goal, because that's what we do. We set goals, we knock them down. Set goals, knock them down, and we just keep it moving, man.
Yeah, that's right. Head coaches, athletes, anybody out there, we will get a chance to, we'll message you and we'll see what goes down, because we'll see how it, because some of the athletes around here, they click and hang up on some of the radio hosts, so it's kind of funny.
That they do, man, that they do. Let's talk about these Tigers. You want to set the plate? You want to set the plate, or should I set the plate?
Go ahead, set the plate, my friend.
Let's set the plate here. We've got a lot to discuss. We've got Tigers. We've got Jock Jams. We've got the Pistons, and just a bevy of different things going on with the Pistons. So we've got all this to discuss. Before we get started, I do want to send out a congratulatory what's up to our United States women's soccer team. Go ahead, take my man card if you wish. But the U.S. women's soccer team defeated Japan in a rematch of the 2011 World Cup. I was happy to watch it. I know you were watching. I know you won't say you were, but you were. You can follow the tweets on at Detroit Podcast on Twitter over there. But what's up to the ladies, man? They did a great job.
Very exciting. And you know what? It was great that the majority of the drama was ended early. Mm-hmm. They scored a bevy of goals early in the game, so you got to really enjoy it. 4 years ago, it was a nail-biter. They got to penalty kicks. It was a situation where you were kind of on the edge of your seat. This game, they scored like 3 minutes into the game. It was a fun ride, and all congrats to the women. We're the best in women's soccer. All kudos. Great stuff.
There's a few things I want to talk to you real quick about the women's soccer team. So, because this is totally, we weren't even planning to talk about any of this stuff, but it just popped in my head. So, I think Allie Krieger's hot. I think Hope Solo, besides her big Montana insides that hang out, she's kind of hot. Alex Morgan's hot. And there's a couple of Sydney LaRue's hot. What's your take on Carly Lloyd? Do you think she's hot or not? Because Carly Lloyd was basically Superwoman for the United States soccer team. I mean, she came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, Alex Morgan was planted as the face of women's soccer. Carly Lloyd came in and said, no, I'm going to wear that cape and get on my back, and I'm going to carry us. And that's what she did. And she's outstanding.
That's the part that I liked. I liked I was trying to say, okay, I'm not going to be chauvinistic. I'm not going to just look at these women as their beautiful figures or anything like that. I was going to say, listen, I'm going to sit back. I'm going to watch what they do. Touch passing. They go from offense to defense rather quickly. So I turned that part of my brain off. But she was great. A hat trick? That made her way more attractive. And it made me, like I said, I only watched a little bit of the tournament, of the World Cup. But I did get a chance to enjoy. I can't lie and say that you wonder and you go, oh, they're good-looking women. But what made them more attractive, they were successful and they played well as a team, brought it all back. But yeah, to your point, yeah, she's very beautiful. I think the majority of the women on that team were good-looking, and it was a great tournament, and it was fun to watch. And, of course, you, of all people, you would be the one looking at, how do I rate these women?
Well, I'm just saying, man, she gets the ball and she dribbles it in, and she's from the 9, and she tucks the ball away. And then I'm looking at her scream, and I'm like, yeah, you're kind of hot. I mean, she has a giant nose, let's be honest, right? It's a big schnoz. I think she might be a little bit Italian. She's got a big Odego nose like me. It's what it is. It's how it works. You can't do anything about it. But I think she's kind of hot, and I don't know. We're sitting there on Sunday, sitting around a table having a few beers, and I brought this up. I was like, do you guys think she's hot? Do you not? And I got a real mixed review on it. So I was just kind of curious where you stood. You're a soccer-nista, so I figured I'd ask you.
It was a great run for the U.S. women's team. Japan, I thought, was going to make it interesting when they made it 4-2. But in the end, we were able to push through, dominate. And besides Hope Solo's, domestic violence issues, the team was pretty organized and was drama free. So it was a good team, a good win. All kudos to the U.S. women's soccer team. And again, everyone keeps saying, oh, soccer's not all that popular here in the States. It's steadily growing. And the icing on the cake will be once the U.S. men's national team makes that push in the World Cup. Because in the world stage, in the men's game, we are not there yet. We are still in the second tier. But once the men catch up, then look out. Soccer is going to explode in this country. It's growing. There's great bars in Royal Oak that you can go watch soccer games.
Dude, it had an 11.2 for
People are
a
watching.
Nielsen rating. That's incredible.
But that's not soccer fans. Those are fans of the United States. Those are fans of people. Those are fans that tune in when the United States is in a final competition looking to win something. Because in the end, whatever sport you like, when the United States is going for a championship, unless you're totally against, you're totally for the country you are from, you always tune in and support any U.S. team. USA curling, tennis, golf. Even if it was USA Tiddlywinks, I'd watch it.
Tiddlywinks. Two things that are sad, though, that the U.S. Women's World Cup Championship kind of points to. What the women earn opposed to what the men earn for winning the World Cup. Women only take home $2 million. Men take home $35 million. There's a huge disparity there. FIFA needs to step in and correct that. And two, the fact that it would be a total abomination and it would be a sad story if the women did not get to the final. However, if the men just make it to the round of 16, it's a victory. Where we hold the women as opposed to where we hold the men in U.S. soccer, unbelievable. Men need to step up their game.
Nathan Tucker chimed in on our Periscope, kind of said, soccer's great. Everybody should give it a chance. And I agree 100%. If you give it a chance, if you're totally against it, then, that's your loss. I mean, you get a chance to sing along, chant, have a good time. And in Detroit, it's growing. And Detroit City FC is drawing huge numbers. And it's a great time. Everyone that's gone has said this is something you need to do. We should go do that. We should go check it out. We should go check out Detroit City FC and see what all the hoopla is about down there at Cass Tech.
Most definitely, dude. Let's transition here into the Tigers.
Oh, what, really?
Yeah, let's talk about some bad things here. I mean, everything that's good with the U.S. women's soccer team. Let's now move into our Detroit Tigers.
Yeah.
All right. What do you see happening with these Tigers now that Miguel Cabrera is going to be on the shelf for, at least 6 weeks with his calf injury? They're kind of winning right now, and I think some of that is due to the fact that everybody now has to start pulling their own weight, and all the guys are now kind of riding that adrenaline rush of, hey, we lost our big slugger, but can the Tigers continue to win without Miguel Cabrera? Because I don't see this happening in the long run. I think down the stretch here, after this adrenaline rush kind of wears off, I think they're going to be spinning their wheels, and I think that come trade deadline time, we might be sellers.
When we were planning this podcast, I started thinking, okay, what kind of things were we thinking before the season started? And I looked back to kind of the things I said, and I had them getting to the wild card game and losing. So a lot of people around town were saying, this is a team that has some holes, and how long can you continue to have success having these holes, especially in the bullpen, the starting pitching? When you lose a pitcher the caliber of Max Scherzer, you're not going to be the same team. And then you were counting on guys that were unproven. You were counting on Shane Green and Simone to pitch well. And they did for the early parts of the season. But now they've kind of, water finds its level, and this team is a 500 team. Can you be angry? You're upset because you become upset when you look at this in the totality. But I'm just looking at it as right now to keep myself from not getting too angry and upset. This team right now is a 500 team. When you look at it, you got to decide. If you're willing to double down, it's like in blackjack when you're losing. You're down $300. Do you walk away, be down $300? It stings. Or do you, the next hand, put down $600 and risk losing $900 to $1,000? Do you risk that? This Tiger team right now is down a couple $100 in blackjack. They're in that decision mode of, hey, are we going to double down and put more money into this and get some more guys to help, or should we just ride it out? So when the question's asked, should we buy or sell? I say just stand pat.
Stand pat.
Because when you look at it, you're not going to get value for David Price because teams know he's going to be a free agent. You can just wait 3 months and get him next year. Why are you going to risk, I know a couple teams in contention could go for him, but why? Why risk giving up pieces when just wait a season, pay the $20 million, $22 million, and get him? So this Tiger team right now has to ride it out and hope that, of course, they're going to make moves. But in my opinion, I don't think that any move you're going to make based on what you can give up is going to make all that much of a difference. If Miguel goes out, that's fine. Nick Castellanos, JD, and Vmart have kind of picked up the slack. And last night, just this new player, Krause, hit a home run. But the issue is this. When it's crunch time, when all the pieces need to be fit together, pitching, defense, bullpen, offense, it doesn't happen. You're getting some games where the bullpen's good and the hitting's good, but the starting pitching's bad. You're getting games where the starting pitching is well, but the bullpen blows it, or the offense stagnates later in the game. So it's one of those things where all the pieces just don't fit right now, and the Tigers are a 500 team. That's what it is. And this team, the biggest indictment is, if you were really a serious World Series contender, you don't bring in a rookie manager to try and guide the ship. That's been the biggest error. Now Miguel Cabrera's out, and you're going to need to piece it together. But the good thing is we're playing some teams that aren't that great. But we still couldn't beat Seattle yesterday, losing late in 11 innings. The series versus Seattle has been very entertaining. Because of the weather or because of the conditions, the ball is flying out of Safeco Field. And it's been enjoyable to watch.
It's been like a home run derby.
It's been a home run derby, 3-4 home runs a game. It's just one of those things where the more you analyze it, the angrier you're going to get. It's time to accept the fact that right now, we're 7 games back. Kacie is the leader in the division, and we're in a position where we need to catch up and play better in order to catch them. It's just the way it is. You can't be too upset regarding what's going on. And again, right now on Periscope, Brenda Baker, just watch and have some fun. It's a game. We're hardcore, Brenda. Sorry, we're hardcore
Very
fans.
hardcore.
We don't just sit and clap when hoping for the best. We want them to win. We've been waiting a long time, Brenda. We can't. We try. We're not trying to be overly negative. We are trying, but we want success. It's been a long time coming, and Adam and I are a little bit older, so we've 30 years between championships is a long time. We're getting that 30-year itch for sure.
In light of Miguel Cabrera's injury, the only way that I can see this team continuing to win and making that push to get into the playoffs is if they're to do something a little bit proactive. And that's what we like to do here. We like to fix things. If things are busted, we like to come in with our magical duct tape and we like to patch it up. And this is my cure for the Tigers. Tigers' big issue is their pitching. Their pitching staff is garbage. Justin Verlander's up and down. David Price is the only solid thing you really have. You talked about Shane Green. You talked about Alfredo Simon. And Anibal Sanchez is good up until about the 7th inning, and then he just self-destructs. Earned run average is 26th in the league. Quality starts is 21st. WHIP is 1.3. That is awful. Absolutely awful. In all major categories of pitching, the staff is in the lower third of the MLB. So this is what the Tigers have to do. Tigers need to go out early. They need to kind of set the bar. They need to go acquire a few pieces early on, get a starting pitcher, maybe get some bullpen help. I know we've talked about this before. They don't have anything inside their minor league system, but you got draft picks. You got draft picks and you've got money. So other teams who need draft picks, other teams who need money, and then you occasionally throw in a prospect here and there, it'll help get the deal done. You go out early. You get a guy maybe like a Dan Herron. You go get some bullpen help. You get a couple guys who can come in and throw for you. And then you sit there and you give it a week or two. You got until July 31st to sit there and see if it actually works out and if this team looks a lot better. And when I say a lot better, I mean night and day difference. If they don't, you can turn around come July 30th, July 31st, whenever, and you can sell off all these pieces, and then you can get some stuff in return. You can get other guys in return. You can get some of that money back in return. You can get some of those draft picks back. You can sit there and you can start to rebuild your farm system because that's going to have to get done eventually. Whether Dave Dombrowski wants to admit it or doesn't, it has to get done eventually. So the Tigers need to go out early before everything gets hot and crazy for the trade deadline. Get a couple guys in here, get some new bodies in here, and plant them into the lineup and see if it takes. Give it a week, give it 2 weeks. You got a little bit of time here. You got until the 31st. If it doesn't happen, sell it all. Sell everything. I don't care if you sell Comerica. Sell everything and rebuild it from the ground up. And I think that's what you got to do. I mean, you got a guy like Justin Verlander. What do you do with a guy like him? He's up and down. You know, I mean, the guy looks great for 6 innings. 7th inning comes around, gives up 6 runs. What are you going to do with this guy? And we just keep hammering him here. On this podcast, on the Motor City Sports Rant, everybody's hammering him. All around the city of Detroit, everybody's hammering him. What do you do with this guy? And I don't want to hear the fact that it's only his 4th start. It's only this. It's only that. I'm tired of the excuses. If Justin Verlander wasn't ready, then he should have stayed down in Toledo. And he should have sat there and stretched it out a little bit longer and worked out a little bit more. Because at this point, my thought is, he's our long relief guy. We slide him to the bullpen until he gets it figured out.
Now, you have triggered off lots of questions and comments here on Periscope. You know, a question from Brenda is, do you think just adding 1 or 2 pieces is really going to drastically change this team and how they play?
I think if you add a starter, I think it helps even out that starting rotation. I think it helps settle everything down. Because right now, you only have David Price going. After David Price, it's kind of a crapshoot. I know Anibal Sanchez in his last start got a win, but then what happens after that? Justin Verlander takes L's. Alfredo Simon takes L's. Shane Green takes L's. It's just a whole bunch of losses after really that guy and a half. And then if you were to add a piece or two into that bullpen, I think it helps strengthen that bullpen. I mean, you got to remember, you just got rid of your eighth inning guy in Jabba Chamberlain because he was a human gas can. So you add a piece or two, I think it helps make everything that much more stabilized and that much more better.
Yeah, and outside of Alex Wilson, nobody that's been called up from Toledo to help with the starting pitching or to help the bullpen has been effective at all. No one's earned their spot. I mean, nobody. Buck Farmer was recalled after Ryan was sent down. I mean, he gave up a 3-run lead. He was awful. They bring up Buck Farmer. They're going to put him in the bullpen. His starts have been atrocious. So Ian Kroll came in, struggled to get out of the 10th inning, and then gave up the winning run in the 11th. He's up and down. He's a classic 4A player right now. He's doing okay in the minors, but when he comes up, a little bit inconsistent. So nobody has taken the reins in terms of coming up from the minors to help this team. And so that's why it's a struggle to really invest, in my opinion, further, because I don't think if you invest further with this team, they have the pieces in place. And what's challenging is right now, going into the trade deadline, we have a series versus Seattle, Minnesota, who we play very well against. Then we play Baltimore.
They've got to win all 4 of those games against Minnesota.
Yeah, then
it's the only way they're going to make up some ground.
Then it's a series versus Baltimore, again versus Seattle, Boston, Tampa Bay. Then in August is when we start hitting the heavy hitters. We play a series versus Kansas City, Boston, another series versus Kansas City, followed by a series versus Houston. So in August, you're going to have a chance to test yourself with the team that you have. But right now, I don't think that you're going to get too many pieces in the trade deadline that's going to really help this team take off. It's like a sinking boat with too many holes. You plug a couple, 2 more holes keep filling up with water. You're keeping the boat, you're keeping the boat on top of the ocean, but the holes are gaining. There's more holes coming, and pretty soon the boat's going to capsize. I really do. I just really believe that this season is going to be a disappointing season. As of now, in mid-July, I don't believe that the Tiger team is going to be all that successful. And now to your question with JV, you just got to keep throwing him out there. His contract is dictating
running him out there.
His contract at $28 million dictates that you throw him out there. He gets extended spring training. He gets it because not based on performance. Once you sign a guy to a contract like that, you got to give him patience because I'm going to take his stance. Stay a little bit positive. He's now getting, he always has difficulty getting out of the first inning without giving up a run or two. He settles in, and then he has that one big inning. Give him a couple more starts. I think you should give him between 8 and 10 starts to fully evaluate him to see where he's at. You keep running him out there. I know the tough part is with him in the starting rotation, team is 0-4. They haven't won a game yet. So
at $28 million, I don't have patience for this. At $28 million,
you're gonna have to, bro.
At $28 million, I could go out and I could sign 2, maybe 3 starting pitchers. I could sit there and I could fill out a roster with incredible bats who can either get on base or steal bases for me. At $28 million, I have now hitched my Detroit Tigers to your leg, which is falling off. I don't have patience for this. When you come in, I need you to win. I need you to be productive. Otherwise, I'm giving you 5 innings and I'm yanking you. And Brad Ausmus has to be smarter about this. You can't leave the guy out there to sit there and sabotage the team. And not now, not right now. You need wins. You need every win you can get. You're 7 games back of KC. You need every win you can possibly muster. That's why I think you go out, and this is the whole thought process behind going out early and getting a few guys in here. You go out early, you maybe save some money because you've got $28 million wrapped up in Justin Verlander. You got $30 million wrapped up in Miguel Cabrera, whose calf is shredded to pieces right now. You got $16 million wrapped up to Victor Martinez. You've got a lot of money tied up in a few players. So you go out, maybe you can save yourself a few dollars here and there, and you can give away a few things and undercut what on July 31st will be astronomical numbers for guys. Okay, so that's why I think you go out and you get a few guys and you try to just stabilize what you got. And then, like you said, in August, trade deadline is going to be over. You're going to have to know what you have. You're going to have to. So you give it until basically July, what? What do you want to say? July 25th, we'll make that the cutoff. You get a few guys, you give till July 25th. You now have 6 days to sit there and either try to move them or try to add something else that you might need for that big series in August when you're taking on Kansas City, because you now need to win against Minnesota. You need to sweep Minnesota. You need to go out and you need to take 2 or 3 from Kansas City. And you got to do this for the rest of the year in order to make up the ground that you've now put yourself behind.
Okay, what do you think about at Red Mosquito 2 on Periscope kind of chimed in and was thinking, okay, what about reshuffling the starting rotation, putting Simon in the bullpen and seeing how that fits?
Who's gonna replace Simon? I mean, that's what I need to know. I need to know who's gonna replace Simon. Look, who do you got? Yeah. You don't have anybody.
Yeah, it's another hole.
Wilson? I mean, is that who you're gonna do? Because now you're taking out what your best relief pitching arm in Wilson, and you're gonna plant him into your starting lineup. And your analogy about the boat is right. I wouldn't mind that, but you need to have somebody who can fill his spot.
That's why
in the minor leagues they don't have anybody that they can just bring up.
And guys that you want are now injured too. Kyle Lobstein was a guy that we thought earlier in the season could be effective. He went down with an injury, and then it's just one of those things where we just need the team as a whole, collectively, to play well. I mean, in the game versus Seattle, I have never seen 2 base runners picked off at first base by a right-handed pitcher. What are you, daydreaming out there? I don't understand. What is going on?
It's just mental lapses, man.
Yeah, mental lapses, lack of talent, injuries. It's just one of those, all of that is factoring into the Tiger struggles.
I don't think talent's an issue here. I just think they check out. I think mentally maybe they're just fried. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe this All-Star break that's coming up here, what is it, on the 14th? Maybe this is what they need. Maybe they need a few days away. Maybe this recharges them, and maybe they come back a better team after it. Because maybe they're just fried. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe there's a lot of pressure because everybody expected them to win. I think we set the over-under at 96 when the season started, or 95. And I think I took 96. I think you took the under. And I think everybody in this town expected them to win. And now they're struggling. You don't have your starting pitcher with Justin Verlander because he's definitely not the same guy he was 2-3 years ago. He's not even the same guy he was a year ago, which is a dramatic fall off. You don't have the best hitter in baseball, Miguel Cabrera, because he's got an injury. Victor Martinez is still rehabbing. I don't care what anybody says. The guy's not 100%. You know, I mean, the only thing that's keeping this team relevant right now is a guy like JD Martinez and a guy like Nick Castellanos, who all of a sudden has picked up a magical bat. He picked up the Wonder Bat, the one that got struck by lightning. And he's figured out how to hit the ball all of a sudden because the guy's batting like 380 in the last 10 days, which is unbelievable. So you're going to need Nick Castellanos to help carry this team. You're going to need JD Martinez to help carry this team. Victor Martinez is going to have to keep doing what he's doing. James McCann, whenever he plays, because Alex Avila's making his way back into the starting rotation here, into the lineup, he's going to start taking starts away from McCann. So when McCann gets in, his bat's going to have to stay hot. It's going to have to be a collective effort on everybody on the offensive end, and from this pitching staff, they've got to figure it out. I don't know if maybe Alex Avila coming in, maybe that does help fix things with this pitching staff. Maybe he calms everybody down. Maybe we totally underrated his ability to call games. Maybe that's possible. I don't know. I have no idea anymore. I'm running out of things. I can't pinpoint what is exactly wrong with this Tigers team because there's so much.
Now, a player that got some rest, Brad Ausmus, examined Nick Castellanos and said, hey, listen, you are kind of taking the game a little bit. You're overanalyzing things. Just relax, sit down, and watch the game. And he's come back, and he's hitting well. Now, we have to kind of temper our excitement because he's doing it versus teams that aren't that great. You know, Nick Castellanos has been batting very well the last week. Do you give him credit for the resurgence, or do you say, listen, we need to see it. We need to kind of have a little bit of patience and wait and see if this continues? Because right now, he's kind of at a high point, and he could be someone that you could move to potentially get someone. He could be a piece.
You could maybe sell him, huh?
You could potentially.
Like where your mind's at.
This is what you would want if you're sitting in the organization and you're up there in the offices and you're going, okay, now Nick has kind of shown a little bit of something. We put him out there. He's doing well. What can we get for him? What is his legitimate trade value? So it's going to be interesting to see if he kind of tapers off. But hey, it's enjoyable to see because I like that. So when you get pressure put on you, you have the fans kind of chirping at you, and you have people starting to question, what do you do? He's got moxie. Now, do you continue to invest in him, or do you say, hey, listen, it's time to maybe recoup some value for Nick Castellanos? What do you think?
You put me in a weird spot because I think it was 2 shows ago I called the guy a bust. I told him that he was garbage. So then he comes out and he just does a great job the next couple days here. So maybe you just need me calling him out. I don't know. But I would like to see a larger sample size before I say Nicky C is the real deal. All right, I'm going to need a few more days. I'm going to need you to, I know you're going to cool off a little bit, but what is he? He's like hit safely in 13 of 14 games here. So that's incredible. That's outstanding. But I'm going to need a little bit more from Nick Castellanos. I'm going to have to see it for a little bit longer period of time. However, if Dave Dombrowski's up top and wants to use him as trade bait because he's friggin' setting the world on fire right now, oh, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Because you got a guy who can fill in and take his spot at third with Andrew Romine. You can sit there and you can put Andrew Romine in, so it's not like taking one piece and then what are you going to do? You got a guy who can take his spot. You got a guy who can play for him. And yeah, Andrew Romine probably won't swing the bat as well as Nick Castellanos is right now. That's okay. If you can get a starting pitcher or you can get a guy who you can sit there and you can fill in now in that bullpen to help even that bullpen out, maybe your 8th inning guy, oh, I'm all for it because you need that right now. You absolutely need that right now. So yeah, I'm okay with Nick Castellanos getting traded away. Before I can say he's the real deal, though, I want to see a larger sample size. I'm just not buying.
Last week's podcast, you said that you had said that the Tigers are not appointment viewing. You have been watching other things, watching soccer, doing that. Have you started with the resurgence in the series versus Seattle, with the home runs, with the excitement? Have you kind of peeked back in with the Tigers?
When the series started against Seattle, I sat there and I did turn on Fox Sports Detroit, and I did watch probably the first 3 innings, and then I went to bed. But I have made it a point to start checking back in to see how the Tigers are doing. And it's not so much that they're hitting the cover off the ball and that they're doing these great things in Seattle. It's not even that. It's just I feel if I don't check in on them and I don't keep abreast of what's going on, I'm doing a disservice to you. I'm doing a disservice to this podcast. I'm doing a disservice to everybody who's listening. So I do it for that. I don't do it because I want to see them, because honestly, I'm totally bored by them. I think it's great that they've hit 8 home runs in 2 games in the Seattle series. That's great. That's outstanding. But I'm totally bored by the Tigers, and I'm totally perplexed as to what they need to fix them. You got a guy like JD Martinez out there, just dingers. That's what they call him in the locker room, just dingers. So you got just dingers contemplating whether or not to go into the home run derby. If I'm a Tiger fan, I'm screaming, hell no, don't go, because it's been tried and true. After the home run derby, man, you come back and you can't hit the broadside of a barn. Every time you go to the home run derby and you sit there and you hit a few balls out of the park, you come back, it messes with your swing, it messes with your mind. And I think it's 5 out of the 6 last home run derby champions have come back, and they've had really bad second halves of the season where they can't hit the broadside of a barn. I can't get the ball out of the park. So I'm JD Martinez. I'm saying no because my team needs me right now. I need to do everything I can do for my team.
Okay, I believe we got Kacie Hollins on the line, new weekend sports anchor from WXYZ. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll chat with the newest addition to the Detroit sports reporter scene, Kacie Hollins. Stay with us. All right, cuz, let's check in with one of our favorite sponsors, Sport Displays Jersey Mount. The Sport Displays Jersey Mount are the easiest and most affordable way to proudly show off your favorite jersey, uniform, sweater, t-shirt, or costume. With its unique design, Sport Display Jersey Mounts are the only hangers on the market that can be mounted to any surface. This allows for easy access to your favorite jersey on game day by simply snapping the rod into or out of the holder. If you have a Steve Yzerman jersey, he not only is a great executive, you want to hang up his Detroit Red Wing jersey in your office, simply snap the jersey mount on and off. It's easy to use. The jersey mount really adds to any man cave. Sport Display jersey mounts are affordable, easy to install. They can be mounted anywhere to both wall or ceiling. If you want, go to jerseymount.com/Detroit-sports-podcast and get a jersey mount and get 5% off. Visit jerseymount.com and check out a really great product that really adds to any man cave. jerseymount.com, get 5% off. All right, everybody, thank you so much for your support. Lots of ways to support us here at the podcast. If you like what you're listening to, if you enjoy the podcast, if you want us to continue to provide great content every Monday and Thursday, if you want us to continue to take phone calls, just go to our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Click through those banner links. Lots of great online deals. I know everybody that's listening likes to save money. DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Click through those banner links, bookmark them, and every time you shop online, nothing extra happens. You get charged no more money. But when you shop online through DetroitSportsPodcast.com, they kick us back a little something, and we can continue to provide great content. DetroitSportsPodcast.com. We greatly appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Well, you can tell everybody. Yeah, you can tell everybody. Go ahead and tell everybody. I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man. Yes, I am, yes, I am, yes, I am.
All right, joining us on the line, she is the newest addition to Channel 7. We're big fans of WXYZ. We're friends with Justin Rhodes, who's been on this podcast. Kacie Hollins joins us. Thank you for joining the Detroit Sports Podcast. How are you?
Hey, guys. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
You come to us now, weekend sports anchor. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you made your way to Detroit.
Well, I'm actually from Canada, so I worked in Toronto I went to school up there and then worked in Toronto for 3 years before I moved to Charlotte, which was a lot different. And I was there for a year and a half, and then I came here. So that's kind of the short version of it.
Your role with WXYZ is the weekend sports anchor. How excited are you? And I'm sure now you've been told that Detroit is a hotbed for sports. Lots to dig into here, definitely here in Detroit.
Oh, yeah, that's why I was so excited about this job and to move to Detroit, because in terms of what I do, there's not very many cities that are better to be in than Detroit. And I've only been here not quite 2 weeks, but I can already tell the fans here are great and dedicated, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, Kacie, how big of a transition was it for you to go from a big city like Toronto to, where did you say?
Charlotte.
To Charlotte. Oh, I'm sorry. From Toronto to Charlotte and now back to Detroit.
It's a little different. Charlotte is the South, so
way more laid back.
But I think I ran Carolina Hurricanes highlights maybe 3 times, and the entire time that I was there, there's not a lot of hockey talk down there. So college basketball was the big sort of, I had to get used to that being, one of the main focal points for sports fans. I decided I wasn't going to choose a team. I feel the same way about Michigan and Michigan State. I'm not going to choose one. I'm not from here. I reserve the right to remain neutral. But yeah, it was definitely interesting going from Toronto, which is, if you work in Toronto, 80% of what you're talking about and covering is hockey. So to go from there to a city that doesn't have a hockey team or a baseball team, it was different, definitely different, but very fun.
Well, since you bring up Toronto and that's where you're from, how do you feel about your Toronto Maple Leafs?
I don't want to get in trouble with anyone, although it's Detroit, so I don't think anybody will hate me for saying I'm not a Leafs fan.
All right.
I grew up in...
Are you a Canadiens fan?
So if anything, I'm a Flames fan.
Oh, interesting.
But I use the word fan loosely. I'm not really a huge fan of any NHL team, except for, I guess, the Wings now. They will say that the Wings are my team.
I got your debut on the 7 Sports Cave. You said that your primary love and passion is football?
Yeah, I kind of grew up. Well, I shouldn't say grew up, but I did watch a lot of football as a high school kid. My mom is a big NFL fan, so that's kind of what our family spent a lot of time watching together. So that's definitely the sport I'm the biggest fan of. We'll put it that way.
Very nice. And the NFL has had some ups and downs, and Adam and I on the podcast a little bit have been, kind of debating whether this whole concussion issue is going to be something to watch further on down the line. I know there's been lawsuits. Some players now at San Francisco have opted in their mid-20s to retire to avoid playing football. Mm-hmm. Just kind of your thoughts on the whole concussion issue and kind of the state of the NFL, because it's such a violent sport. It could be something that is going to be an issue going forward.
The NFL is not going anywhere, but I think the trend of younger players retiring, or even players not entering the sport or pursuing it to that level, I think that trend is going to continue for sure. I think we're going to see more and more players choosing to retire earlier now that there's more information about what, a 10, 12-year career in the NFL can really do to your body long term, can do to your brain long term. It's just a matter of more information being out there, right? It's always been a violent sport. There's more protection now than ever. The helmets are more high tech, the gear is more high tech, but there's so much more information out there about the long term effects of playing a sport like that. And people are paying attention, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It's definitely going to change the way the sport looks, but the NFL is not going anywhere.
And from afar, Adam and I, huge Lions fans. The big talking point with the Lions, Matthew Stafford, #1 overall draft pick. He is a player that's much criticized. He's very much examined because of the fact that he doesn't have any playoff wins to his name. Just your thoughts from afar regarding Matthew Stafford, and do you think he'll take that next step and become elite?
I've never sort of believed in the quarterback being the make or break. Especially when it comes to playoffs, I've never believed in the court, and unless they're just completely can't accomplish anything, which no one would say that about Stafford. So I don't really think I wouldn't put it all on his shoulders in terms of getting a playoff win. Do I think they're going to do it this season? I'm not sure. I'm trying to remain optimistic. I just got here. I don't want to make any enemies by bashing Detroit teams. But, I mean, I think they've made some good moves. I like their draft picks. I think, I have nothing negative to say about the direction that they're headed in as a team. I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to put it all on Stafford's shoulders in terms of him being the one that wins a playoff game for them. I'm not sure that this is the year that's going to necessarily happen, but I don't think that we're anywhere near a point where they need to talk about not having Stafford throwing the ball.
Gotcha. Kacie Hollins, kind enough to give us a few minutes. At Kacie Hollins TV is where you can follow her on Twitter. Obviously, we all know Green Bay is the team to beat. Do you think there's any other teams in the NFC North that potentially could knock them off their throne? A lot of people are talking like Green Bay has retooled that offensive line, is looking to be a juggernaut again this year, and you never discount Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I kind of have to. I have to stand pat on that with I guess the other talking heads. Green Bay is going to be a tough team, a really tough team to beat, and that's part of the reason why I look at what the Lions have done in the off season and the last few months. It's like I said, positive things, but they have their work cut out for them this season. Let's put it that way.
What are your thoughts on the whole issue with Tom Brady? What are your thoughts about Tom Brady and the whole suspension, and will it get reduced? Will he be able to come back and play week 1?
I mean, I don't, from a very personal opinion standpoint, I don't think it should get reduced. I mean, he was caught cheating, and the whole argument that everybody does it and blah, blah, blah. I mean, you hear that argument in every sport. That's not really the point. The point is he, manipulated things he shouldn't have manipulated, and he got caught doing it. And are they using him as an example? I think so. There's also the argument that because it's Tom Brady, he only got 4 games, and that if it was somebody else, it would have been more. So I don't necessarily think that is completely unreasonable. So I kind of hope that he serves 4-game suspension, and that's that, and we can put Deflategate behind us, and I never have to say that word again. But yeah, I definitely don't think it needs to be reduced.
You know what?
No.
I definitely didn't think about it being because he's Tom Brady, he only got 4 games, and another player could have got 6 to 8. I never thought about it that way. So thank you for bringing that to, I guess, my attention, making it a thought in my head. I never thought about it that way.
Tom Brady, America's golden boy.
That's right.
New England's golden boy, at least.
NBA. You know anything about our Pistons? Are you high up on the Stanley Johnson pick?
I've been watching him in summer league,
Okay.
And definitely like what I see. Definitely like what I hear too.
Okay.
He sounds like he's got a really great attitude. Like he's got the perfect. I mean, he could just be really well trained for media. Who knows? But he sounds like he's got the perfect attitude as a rookie going into his rookie season. So I think he's going to be able to bring. I think he's going to be able to bring things on both sides of the court, to be perfectly honest. And I definitely see him as a player who's going to be able to come in and make an impact in his rookie season, which, for a team like the Pistons is pretty important.
What about Reggie Jackson's contract? He's going to get paid $16 million a year to be the point guard of the Detroit Pistons. Some people think that's excessive.
Well, it's a good year to be a mediocre NBA player. I'm not calling Reggie Jackson mediocre, but he's no elite superstar NBA player. I can't say anything about this contract because I've heard more ludicrous ones. So it's a good year. It's a really, really good year to be sort of a mid-level baller in that league.
You know what? I want you to look into your crystal ball. Pull that out of your bag real quick. Dust it off a little bit. I want you to look into your crystal ball. Do you see us going to an NBA lockout? Because like you said, mediocre players are getting paid Brinks chucks of money.
Yeah. I mean, I guess all I can say about that is I hope not. If I'm going to be perfectly realistic and a little bit negative, there's definitely going to, I don't necessarily, know if there's going to be a lockout, but we're definitely going to be heading down that road. Hopefully, with the experience of the lockout that was not that long ago, they can sort of resolve things faster or, figure out a way to avoid having that situation. But yeah, we're headed for some interesting headlines on the business side of things for sure.
Now, Kacie, thank you for taking the time to chat with us on the Doc and Jock podcast. We greatly appreciate it. We like to get a chance to get to know our guests, and so we'll get you out of here on this. You got 4 tickets. You can go to any sporting event, any venue in time, and you can take 3 people with you, either dead or alive, family, friends, celebrities. What sporting event would you go to, and what venue, and who would you take?
would definitely take my mom and my sister to like a late, let's say like early 90s Cowboys game.
Ooh, Dallas.
Why the Cowboys?
Yeah.
We talking about Emmitt Smith?
I was going to try to avoid saying this for as long as I could, but they're my team. They're my family. So,
oh, all right.
And I was too young to really appreciate when they were good. So my mom got all of the glory as a Cowboys fan, and now I just suffer.
So you hear that, Detroit? She was cheering when that call went against us. Good stuff. It's okay. Listen, it's okay as long as you're passionate and you're knowledgeable. It's all good here. You still have an invitation here. You can root for whoever you want. It's all good. Thank you so much. We look forward to watching the broadcast. You did a great job your first weekend. You can follow Kacie Hollins at Kacie Hollins TV. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Kacie Hollins, WXYZ TV, NFL. She's going to learn her education real quick regarding the Lions. It's not all roses a lot with the Detroit Lions. But let us take a break, and we'll come back with Jock Jams.
She'll be interesting to have on later on when football season starts, I think.
We'll be right back with DocNJock, episode 100.
DocNJock here for Fanatic U, the official outfitter of Detroit Sports and the Detroit Sports Podcast. Fanatic U has a massive selection of t-shirts, hats, jerseys representing all Detroit teams. Visit fanaticu.com today and check out the wide array of sports merchandise to deck yourself out in the newest, trendiest apparel. Represent your favorite teams in style by visiting one of 6 Fanatic U locations: Garden City, Taylor, Southfield, Fraser, Novi, and the newest location on Brush Street in Detroit, directly across from Ford Field and 1 block away from Comerica Park. FanaticU.com is where you need to visit and shop for your friends, family, and yourself when you want the best in Detroit sports attire. Visit FanaticU.com today, and we can continue to provide free giveaways to you, the listener. That's FanaticU.com.
Definitely check out the guys at the Detroit Sports Nation, DetroitSportsNation.com. Great website. They are unbelievable. They are killing it on Facebook. Give them a like at their Facebook page, Detroit Sports Nation, and definitely check out their website, DetroitSportsNation.com. Our collaboration with them has been excellent, and they continue to be a strong presence here on the podcast because they bring the noise and they have great content. So thank you guys again. We can't thank you enough.
You're the future of our business, and I know when you guys have a podcast like this, our future is in good hands.
You got to check out their stuff. I mean, I'm really impressed by it. You guys have probably one of the better ones I've seen in the country.
Wow.
In a short period of time, you've done good work. Look at me kissing your hand.
I know.
DocNJock, episode 100. My goodness. Thanks, everyone, for downloading this podcast. We are available on iTunes, Stitcher, Podomatic, the DetroitSportsNation.com website. Lots of ways to find us, and we thank everybody that's been downloading this podcast. We greatly appreciate it. We can't thank you enough. And so as part of our podcast project, we started off with DocNJock, and then earlier this year, we added on the Motor City Sports Rant. We want to be able to provide great content, and for those that are passionate about Detroit sports, we give everybody a great chance. And when Adam was away on vacation, we had Vito Chirco in here, and way back in the day, he hosted his own Chirco and Company radio program at the University of Detroit Mercy, and he came in here, hosted a couple podcasts, and we recognized pretty quickly that he really loved baseball and that he was really passionate about Detroit sports. He's a freelance writer over there at freep.com. I really sensed that he was very passionate about Detroit sports, and we kind of been chatting back and forth. We talked a little bit about, podcasting here and there, and I said, hey, Vito, do you want to do a Detroit Tigers specific podcast? And he was like, that's a great opportunity. And so we're happy to announce on this episode 100 that we are rolling out our 3rd episodic weekly podcast, the Detroit Tigers Weekly Program with Chirco and Company. And we have the host on the phone lines right now, Vito Chirco. What's up, Vito? What's going on?
Hey, man. How's it going, guys? Glad to be on today.
No, it's great. Congratulations. We're looking forward to your project. And tell us a little bit about what Tigers Weekly with Chirco and Company is going to entail.
I look forward to a lot of Tigers talk and a lot of Major League Baseball-related talk with my brother, guests from the Free Press, from the news. So Tigers beat writers, MLB beat writers, bloggers, and everybody that's passionate about baseball. If you're passionate about baseball, you can come on the podcast, join me, join the fray. My brother and I, the two of us will be on every single week. Him and I will have lively banter about his team, the White Sox, about my team, my favorite professional sports team, the Tigers, and a lot of great, passionate, lively banter between us about baseball. So not just the Tigers, but also Major League Baseball. And we'll look into the farm system, maybe a little bit of the Tigers, give some scouting reports on the prospects, look at the trade deadline, look at the Tigers' trade deadline targets, who they need to add, what are the positions of needs, of most need, and maybe the guys that might be dealt by the Tigers if they become sellers. We'll look at whether or not they're sellers, buyers, maybe both a little bit, maybe nothing, maybe they stay in pat, which really never happens. Under the regime of Dave Dombrowski, Tigers never stay in pat. They always make a deal, always are wheeling and dealing. Thing is, this year, the question is whether or not they are going to be buyers or sellers. And I think the next 2 weeks leading up to the deadline will be very telling of what the Tigers do in that week before and on the trade deadline, the non-waiver deadline in Major League Baseball, which is July 31st. So our first podcast, we're going to record July 28th, release it July 29th, and then the deadline for 31st, so 2 days leading up to that, we're going to be releasing a podcast all about the Major League Baseball trade deadline. And my brother loves breaking down the prospects, like I said, all these possible deals. He'll look at it hardcore. I will too, and we'll bring on a guest or two to further break it down and dissect it with the two of us on that first edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company.
Vito, how does it end up that you're a Tiger fan and your brother's a White Sox fan? You guys grew up in the same household. How does this happen?
I hate it. It's a house divided. My dad hates it, but we love my brother. He's passionate about it. So at least he's diehard. He's not a fair weather fan. He's been a fan before 2005 when the White Sox won it all. And ever since then, still a fan of hardcore through the thick and the thin, the hard, the bad, the good and the bad. So he's a hardcore fan. And you know what? For that, I give him credit because a lot of guys will just jump on the bandwagon. And even Tigers fans in recent memory, since they've won the 4 straight division titles, going for the 5th straight this year, not that likely. But to sum it up, to answer your question, he wanted to rebel, be different, and he is very unique. And he's a very unique, passionate baseball voice that I'll love to have on the podcast on a weekly basis.
Okay, Vito, before we let you go, the Tigers have been playing, 500 baseball. In your opinion, do you think they're going to be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline?
You know what? I think they should be sellers, should trade David Price, look to see what they can get for him, get a great coup, return of prospects to rebuild the farm system, and to reach for next year. If they still want to contend and win it all, right? That's the goal for the Tigers. They haven't done that yet, had their best chance in 2013. But this year, the odds, the outlook is fairly, negative, right? Not optimistic. I'm not optimistic about the Tigers going forward this year. But if they trade David Price, get a good amount of prospects to build for next year, they can win next year and be contenders once again. But right now, wild card, best case scenario. And that's why I believe if you're not going to win it all, why go for it, right? Why risk trading more farm system, top positional, and pitching prospects for a guy that's going to be a rental, perhaps like a Johnny Cueto, or even in the case of who they have right now, David Price, they have him for a half a season more, right? He's probably going to entertain a lot of offers on the open market and choose to leave Motown in the offseason. So why not move on from him now and get something in return? They already blew it with Max Scherzer, got nothing, right? No prospects, nothing major in return. Now they can get the, compensatory, draft pick because they get that compensation, Big Baseball's amateur draft, by letting a guy walk when he's a type A, one of those top-tier free agents. But if they don't do that, they could, as I said, simply trade him before the deadline and become sellers in the process. And then maybe even entertain the offer or the idea of dealing Cespedes, who I really like. I think they should resign him and build up that offensive attack and build a great offensive core in the middle of the order for next year and beyond next year. Whereas I guess you could, devil's advocate, trade him to get some pitching. But right now, the big trade chip obviously is David Price, and he's the one that has to go. Everybody else, it could be a trickle-down effect if they deal Price. I think really he's the big chip that you will trade if you're Dave D and should trade. But the other guys, I think you keep, and you try to re-sign Cespedes. You try to build up that lineup, like I said, to have that great offensive attack for 2015 and going forward. Along with Cespedes, you would have then J.D. Martinez, who's hitting home runs at a rapid rate, historic rate. Miguel Cabrera coming back and being healthy for the stretch running for next year. And if you have all of those guys and Victor Martinez healthy for next year, that's a great middle of the order. And then it's just about building up the rotation. And that's what you'll have to do in the offseason if you're Dave D. And I think through free agency. And maybe with guys other than David Price. And if you trade him, he's not coming back. I mean, he's not going to resign here. So, I know the Cubs got John Lutzer for agency, and the Red Sox fans thought they would get him after they traded him to the A's, and he had that, good down the stretch. Their performance with the Athletics, to a certain degree, at least pitched in the playoffs in that one-game playoff. And the Red Sox fans thought, probably the brass and being thought they would get him back. Well, that's not the case. Wasn't not going to be the case with David Price. So for me, that's a guy you don't have to worry about letting him walk and getting that compensation via a draft pick. You just trade him now, get that great group of prospects to build up the lineup, the farm system, and then hopefully those guys are players. And I think that's what you will end up trading him for, or maybe a rotation arm or two that can be good in a year or two. But you have to get something. I think you can't pass up the opportunity of getting something in return for him, and that's that.
Detroit Sports Podcast listeners, you can obviously tell Vito has the pulse of what's going on with the Tigers. He's got strong opinions. And starting July 29th, every Wednesday, you can hear Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. Vito, we look forward to hearing your podcasts, and welcome to Detroit Sports Podcast family.
Hey, thank you very much. You have a good one, guys.
You can follow Vito on Twitter at Vito Jerome. That guy loves him some baseball, and I look forward to listening to his podcast every single Wednesday. He's going to be talking exclusively baseball-specific podcasts. Hopefully they'll be in the midst of a winning streak. We'll have some good news. Maybe JD will be, the new home run derby champion. And
No. You don't want that. It's been proven, man. You don't want it.
All right. It's time. It's that time of the podcast where we get a chance to pick your brain and see what's going on, discuss Detroit sports issues, as well as some national issues in a segment we call Jock Jams. All right, cuz way back in the day, Michigan was affiliated with Nike. And then when the Rich Rod era was brought in, they switched over to Adidas. And since then, the Michigan program has not played all that well in football. Now, of course, we don't blame the attire that the athletes are wearing, but news was made earlier this week when the Michigan program decided to realign and rejoin the Nike family. Some people say, well, great news now that this new generation is going to like Nike. They have great attire. They got great fresh gear that these hot new recruits are going to like. Others are like, come on, let's just play a good brand of football, and then no matter what you're wearing, it doesn't make a difference. But what was your reaction to Michigan football realigning with that famous swoosh and Nike?
I was super excited. Nike made the best Michigan apparel. I'm a Michigan fan, but Michigan's apparel is generally awful. It's god-awful because it's just giant block M, and that's really all you have. And then when Adidas took it over, the color yellow changed. It wasn't this maize color. It wasn't this color that you grew up loving. It became this bright, almost fluorescent color. It hurt your eyes. And a lot of the stuff that Adidas tried to do, they tried to make it hip, they tried to make it trendy. It almost felt like Michigan sold its soul to the devil. If you go back to that Charles Woodson jersey, that Nike number 2 jersey, it was incredible. It was outstanding. It's probably the best Michigan item that you could possibly own is that jersey right there. It speaks for itself. And then what Adidas would pump out there would be, it'd have stripes on it. It would look like a bumblebee. It was obscene. The stuff that they would pump out there is awful. I'm excited for Nike to come back. I think it's great. I think the one thing that maybe gets a little bit overlooked is Michigan was able to strike a deal for the basketball team where they can use the Jordan brand, which is something that a lot of schools don't have the option of. So the Jumpman and everything that goes along with Jordan, the basketball team, the football team, everybody gets to use this stuff now. This is a selling point for recruits. You can come and you can say to a recruit, hey, check out these brand new all black, because they're going back to the all black sneakers. Check out these all black Jumpman tennis shoes that were made specifically for us. So if you like Jordan gear, we got it all. And we're going to give it to you. We're going to let you wear it. All you got to do is make the team. So I think that's really underrated, and I think it was a giant coup for Michigan. I think this is great. I think it's awesome. You got Jim Harbaugh back in the fold. You got an AD who seems like he knows what the hell he's doing. You got Nike back. It really feels like we're going back to winning games here. It's all I really want. I just want W's.
This is the last month where we will be without football. So, and then the fall will be here rather quickly, and we shall see what is going to happen with the Michigan football program. It seems like we've talked about everything regarding Michigan football but the games itself. So it's about that time.
It's weird, man, isn't it? It really feels I'm going to be honest with you, it's uncomfortable for me. I really just want to talk about games, and I want to see what the product is on the field. Whole lot of talk about all kinds of ancillary things, interviews with other radio hosts, apparel, different things. It's uncomfortable. There's a lot of noise around Michigan, which makes me worried.
All right, because now Russell Wilson, along with having some issues with his contract, kind of has been making the rounds and kind of been talking. And, when you're a quarterback with the cachet of a Russell Wilson, you get a chance to be interviewed. You get a chance to go around, to be on Jimmy Kimmel, to, talk to churches, to talk to different organizations and things like that when you're interviewed. But a recent interview came out where he said previously he was, involved in a long-term relationship that ended. And, by all accounts, he upgraded huge. Now he's dating Ciara. But in an interview, he said that him and Ciara are celibate.
What?
2 parts. You buying that? And second, in this day and age, are you surprised that an athlete with his convictions can stay celibate, especially when, he's dating a world famous pop star?
Well,
you believe him?
First off, kudos to Russell Wilson for getting Ciara.
Hey, that's unbelievable.
I have no idea how he's doing that because she's gorgeous. She's absolutely beautiful. She's got a banging body, a beautiful face. I don't get it. But if anybody could probably do it, and he's a guy who strikes me as one to back up what he talks. So, and he's a very Jesus-y kind of guy, which is starting to kind of wear on me. But he's a real Jesus-y guy. So, yeah, I buy it. I believe it. I think he's starting to push that limit, though. Remember how when Tim Tebow came out, it was all this kneeling down and making the sign of the cross and talking about how God helped him win a football game. Russell Wilson did the same thing in this interview where he was talking about how when he took 3 steps after throwing that interception that God came to him and God told him he's testing him and wants to see what he's going to do and how he reacts. And then took another 3 steps and God talked to him again. And when he was sitting there with Ciara, God told him to sit there and lead her and this and that. And dude, come on. You want to be celibate? That's fine. One of your teammates banged your wife. That's why you guys got divorced. Okay, cool. All right.
Allegedly.
Yeah. So come on, man. You threw an interception, so now God's going to test you. Come on, dude. It's football. You threw a bad pass. The route was jumped. It's what it was. It was a horrible play call. God wouldn't have to lead you if Pete Carroll made the right call and put Marshawn Lynch in from the 1. All right? Then God wouldn't have to test you then. Come on. Nobody needs to hear this stuff. It's cool. Just let's move on. Do what you got to do. Be celibate. That's fine. Good for you. That's great. Hopefully your relationship with Ciara works out, and hopefully you guys are happy. But enough with this God crap. I don't need to hear this. It's sports, and it's only sports, and that's all I need. That's all I need. I don't need Jesus from you. If I need Jesus, I'll go to church.
Oh. Now
I'm tired of athletes and always pointing to God, and God's the reason that God doesn't give 2 shits whether you win or you lose. God doesn't care, okay? Because if that was the case, what is God doing? Really, what is he doing? We got people getting blowed up in the Middle East. We got people getting dismembered in basements. If God really cared about all that stuff, he'd be stepping in right there, fixing all that stuff. Instead, you're meaning to tell me that God cares because you threw an interception with the game on the line? Come on, bro. Let's be for real. He doesn't give 2 craps about you and your sports. Let's go.
What a dick.
I'm sorry, man. That's how I feel.
Good stuff. Now, third and final question.
Mm-hmm.
In the vein of positivity, one of the other much maligned athlete in Detroit.
Because we all know how I'm super positive.
No, I'm saying because JV came out and was like, let's be positive. I only gave up, so many runs. We lost, but I had a couple good innings. I threw a couple good pitches. Let's stay positive.
Let's stay positive.
Hashtag stay positive. So Chris Burke of Sports Illustrated wrote an article and said that better days could be in store for Lions tight end Eric Ebron. He thinks that Ebron is one of 8 players that he picked that have gone from overrated to underrated, thinking that it is difficult as a tight end to transition, and he's now thinking that Eric Ebron, should he put in the time, is poised to have a significant impact on the Lions offense. Your thoughts on Chris Burke of Sports Illustrated calling our Eric Ebron now underrated?
I think Chris Burke is wrong in his assessment, for one, because Eric Ebron came out and said, I'm not a tight end. I'm a playmaker. So Eric Ebron didn't transition from being a tight end in in college to the National Football League. He transitioned from being a playmaker to being a pass dropper in the NFL. So Eric Ebron being underrated is because nobody's paying attention to you, Eric Ebron, because you can't hold on to the damn football. Learn to catch the ball, and then we can talk. No, this SI writer is smoking crack. He's sitting there buying hype lines from newspapers or something, dude. I have no idea what the hell this guy's talking about. Eric Ebron is a scrub. Scrub. I need some TLC played in the background right now. Scrubs. That's what I need right now. Seriously, dude. Eric Ebron's garbage. Awful pick at number 10. You don't ever take a tight end that high. And Eric Ebron's not a tight end, according to himself. He's a playmaker, but he doesn't make any plays. He had 1 touchdown his rookie season. He was supposed to be the second coming of Calvin Johnson in a bigger body. Jimmy Graham-like. He was nothing of the sort. The guy was like Brandon Pettigrew. That's what you got. You got Brandon Pettigrew. You wasted the 10th overall pick on Brandon Pettigrew. Again, garbage. No, that SI writer's way off base, dude. I'll be surprised and I'll be ecstatic if Eric Ebron can catch 5 touchdowns this year. Awful. Absolutely awful, dude.
Jock, 100 episodes strong, bring in the noise. That's why he's here. Strong opinions. He does not think that Eric Ebron will be the go-to offensive weapon, potentially, for the Lions. One of the go-to offensive weapons.
Let me ask you a question, all right? You've got Kelvin Johnson. You've got Golden Tate. You now have a running game which is supposed to be more lethal, a little bit more potent, because now you have an offensive line built up that is supposed to be able to move people in open holes. And you've got Lance Moore. And then you've got Joe Fourier, Eric Ebron, and Brandon Pettigrew. Tell me how your order goes. We'll lump running game in as one for just assets or playmakers.
No, obviously the wide receivers, Johnson and Golden Tate 1, 2, and then you would go with Lance Moore as the third option. Potentially he could, move up if both guys are covered, and then you would go running backs, then you would go tight ends. But that's just based on the talent. If Ebron can develop, if he can be that guy that can consistently catch the ball, it's a copycat league. Look what New England is able to do with Gronkowski.
Hold on to the ball in workouts, wearing shorts and a helmet.
But you never know, man. You never know
how totally different when you put pads on.
But look at what having an effective tight end will do to an offense. It opens everything up. That will improve Joique Bell. That'll improve the wide receivers, because people think that it takes time to develop and that he's got to learn this system. It's not easy to look at a playbook and just go right into it. Ebron is similar to Castellanos. If he can just be a little bit more instinctual, if he can just play football and not get in his head too much, catch the ball, then you help this offense tremendously. Is it going to happen? The odds say it's going to be more of a challenge.
But it just get Stickum on his fingers. He'd be able to catch the football and not drop.
You're absolutely right. But I do understand right now, it's still early. We still have to give him the benefit of the doubt that in his second season, he may do something. He may not. And that's well documented and well talked about regarding the 10th pick. So this season is going to be imperative for him to at least get 5 to 8 touchdowns and to help this offense move the chains and to keep the drives going. So if he starts dropping the ball early, he's going to be right up there with Brandon Inge and right now JV as athletes that are going to get booed and scrutinized no matter what they do. He's got to show up, period.
Dude, I can't handle you sometimes, seriously, because we'll shut the podcast off, and me and you'll sit there and we'll have conversations afterwards, and you'll be like, he's a scrub, he's a bum, he's awful, and then you come on here and you fence sit. That's what you're doing right now. You're fence sitting. No, good fence sitting. I can't wait for Lions season to roll around. We can have some real legitimate talks, and you don't got to sit there and you don't got to play this side or that side. Listen, you can just come out and you can just say it. Just say it. I know you want to say it. He's a bum, dude. He's a bum with a capital B-U-M. Bum. E-bum. That's what he is.
JV has changed my life. I've seen the light. JV, hashtag stay positive, because it's summer.
All you have to do is believe.
The weather's nice. It was a great 4th of July. I'm in that stay positive mode. We're at episode 100. We're building, this podcast network, 3 podcasts a week and more potentially. So I'm in the hashtag stay positive mode. I
love how you do this. I love how you do it.
But no, if you ask
Sultan
me,
of segue right there.
Yeah,
look at you.
That's right.
Just always marketing.
If you put my feet to the fire, I think that the pick is not going to live up to the 10th pick, if you ask me that. But I'm hoping.
Way to be diplomatic.
It's not going to live up to the 10th pick. Especially now, like I said, when you look at who was drafted after, it just get us some productive drives. Just stay healthy, get on the field, and let's see what he does. Good stuff. Jock Jams, episode 100, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. And now, to end the podcast, we're going to peek at our Detroit Pistons. Man, Kacie Hollins said it. I mean, she summed it up perfectly. What a year to be an average NBA basketball player. You believe $1.4 billion signed the opening day of free agency.
That's insane.
And I mean, if you're an NFL player and you're looking like, dang, hockey players, you got to be like, man, among the sports, you're the paupers. Among the sports, I mean, NBA and baseball, they're the kings. And the rest, I mean, there were contracts signed that were so ridiculous and unbelievable. And one of them that we got to talk about, we feared it, we talked about it, but Reggie Jackson signed 5 years, $80 million. So Stan Van Gundy has cemented his legacy with the Pistons with Reggie Jackson. That's a big contract for a guy that was a backup to Russell Westbrook in OKC. Had a stint in Detroit. We got to see some potential, but we did also see the limitations that he does bring when his shot is not falling. 5 years, $80 million, good contract. What do you think?
I think it's a little bit expensive, but if you, like you said, you look around the league and you look at what guys are getting, I think it's a very palpable contract. I think it's right where he slots in. It's a little bit more than what I would like to have seen him got, but what are you going to do? I mean, there's nothing you can do. That's what these guys are making now. That's what's going on. I mean, a guy like Greg Monroe went out there and got a max deal. And I don't think Greg Monroe's worth a max deal.
And an opt-out deal, too. He can opt out and get more.
These owners have given these players all this power and all this leverage to sit there and to be able to just rake in buckets of cash. Honestly, when I asked Kacie about a possible lockout, I really do believe that this league is transitioning towards another lockout because you have too many, like she said, mediocre players earning way too much money. And I'm not saying Reggie Jackson's a mediocre player. I think he might grow into this contract, and come year 5, we might be like, wow, we got him on the cheap. But he's going to have to work on a few things. And what you're really paying him for is you're paying him to be a distributor. You want him to move the ball around. You want him to be the guy who brings the ball up and gets that open look for whomever. All right. And I think the way that this team is built and the way this team is constructed, I think that might play dividends, but I'm apprehensive because that's a lot of money, man. We're talking, what is it, $16 million a year? $16 million a year for a guy who essentially started 30 games last year, maybe 45 games, and contributed. He averaged, 19 points a game, but he assisted with, he gave you 10 assists every game. And that's what you're giving him. That's what you're paying him for. So it'll be interesting to see. I think right now it's a difficult contract to swallow. 3 years down the road, though, we might be looking at it being like, Stan Van Gundy knew what he was doing. This might be all right. So I'm apprehensive on it.
Yeah,
I'm fence sitting now. Look at that. Look at what you've done. You rubbed off on me. Look at that.
Hashtag stay positive.
Yeah.
Listen, Reggie Jackson, if he evolves, maybe he just needed that love. Maybe he's similar to Chauncey. He's now found a home for the next 5 years. He just needed that GM, that president, that head coach to say, you're my guy. Jack up as many shots as you want. You lead the offense, and maybe he'll thrive with that. He's gotten the confidence. He seems like a guy that does not lack confidence, and he's a guy that volume shooter. He's going to have to make more of his shots. He's going to have to be much more selective in his shot selection for sure. If his three-point game is off, he can't be jacking up 3 after 3, especially in today's NBA. These teams will get up to an 8 to 12-point lead just like that in a hurry. So if he's not running the offense well, it could go sour real quick too. But I like the premise of what Stan Van Gundy believes in. I just think that, in all honesty, he's not a $16 million a year point guard. That's just not in my line of thinking. I think around 8 to 12 max in my mind. But he, like I said, all credit to him. You can't hate on him. He got the deal.
The one thing that I do like that he's doing is he has taken it upon himself to be the leader of this team. All the reports coming out of Summer League and everything that's kind of coming out about Reggie Jackson and this deal being signed is he wants to be here, which is great. He is talking to players, talking with other guys, bringing the young kids along, and he's working on different drills with them, working on shooting with them, and working on different things in the offseason with the rest of this team, which is good to hear. It's good to know. So there are things that I like about this and things that are positive. I mean, the fact that he didn't go out and look for a deal with any other team. He sat there. He wants to be here. He wants to be here. This is where he doesn't want to go anywhere else. I think this is a good thing. But you're right. $16 million is a lot for a guy his caliber at this point.
Now you're picking in a little bit of the NBA Summer League. Stanley Johnson's holding his own. But again, juxtapose that with Justice Winslow. Justice is looking nice down there in Miami. But I like the fact where they both are. Stanley's in a good system. Justice is in a good system for where he is right now. I'm liking the bravado that's shown by Stanley Johnson. He's a California guy, and he's keeping it real. He's being interviewed, and when he was drafted, he said, I'm going to be the best player in the 2015 draft. He thinks, I'm going to be an impact player here in the NBA. He wants to, play against LeBron James and measure his skills against, one of the best all-time greats in the NBA. I like that. Like we've said it before, I like guys that are honest and real and don't hold back. We have seen way too many examples of guys that are way too PC out there and are boring interviews. Stanley Johnson has yet to be burned, which is a good thing. He has not put his foot in his mouth per se. He's a young kid, and I like the bravado. I like that he's talking a big game, and what I've seen in the Summer League, he's aggressive, assertive, good shot, can be an effective player. But Stan Van Gundy came out and said earlier this week that he's going to have to earn his minutes, as he should. I'm happy with Stanley Johnson as we speak.
Dude, Stanley Johnson's playing against D-leaguers, and he's playing against rookies. That's what he's doing right now. So, hey, that's great that you're basically beating up three-legged cats on a frozen pond right now. Good job. Great. Shut up. Shut up. Don't call out LeBron James, and don't sit there and try to compare yourself to him, and don't try to tell me that you want to be the best player in the 2015 draft. Go out there and prove it. Do it. Do it before you start talking. Seriously, you've done nothing. What have you done? What has he done? He's done nothing. He hasn't even played an NBA game yet, so shut your mouth. Shut up. Absolutely, just shut up. Don't say anything. I don't need you saying anything. I don't want you to say anything. I just want you to be quiet. I want you, when you get in the game, I want you to score baskets. That's what I want you to do. That's all I want you to do. I don't want you to do anything else. I don't want you to turn the ball over either. All right? That's it. Just be a plus player and be quiet until you actually go out there and you do something. Once you do something, then you can talk all you want. You get out there and you sit there and you line up on LeBron and you take LeBron one-on-one and you take him to the hole and you flush it in his face. Go ahead, beat your chest and call him out all you want. You can do it repeatedly. I don't care. But until you do something, shut up. You're playing against D-leaguers, bro. D-leaguers. That's it.
Okay, so you're more along the lines of stay humble, stay chill, let your game on the court do the talking.
That's right. I don't need you talking.
What a dick.
Yes.
Oh, man, that's good stuff.
That's your favorite drop now.
Oh, man, it's a great drop. It fits into a lot of what we talk about. All right, so Stanley Johnson, most likely not going to start with the Pistons early on. Maybe down the line, midway through the season, he could earn his way in there. But the starting five as constructed, Reggie Jackson, KCP, you got Marcus Morris, Ersan Ilyasova, and Andre Drummond. The first thing when you look at it is youth. The oldest player is 28 years old in Ersan Ilyasova. That's good. A very youthful group that can handle 4 games in 8 nights or whatever the rigors are of the NBA, because those games can pile up real quick. I like the starting five. I like the mix if KCP and Andre Drummond continue to develop, because KCP was struggling when he was away from home or when he was on the road, couldn't hit a shot. And he got blasted by his coach multiple times, whether it be indirect or directly. Stan Van Gundy doesn't bite his tongue. And he came on and said,
Morris's brother, Markieff, sat there and called him out too.
Called out KCP?
Yeah.
He said that he needs to develop and get his game together? Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. Do you think KCP has that potential to take that next step? Because now, when you look at it, Trey Burke in Utah, his time likely is ending. He's often involved in trade rumors. So that whole KCP Trey Burke talk is kind of now swaying back towards KCP. And a lot of people, including myself, were basically wrong. KCP, was a guy that if he develops, can be a guy that can be better than Trey Burke.
Yeah, I think KCP has the potential, which is a scary word, has the potential to be a very good player in this league. A lot of what Stan Van Gundy said, though, is right. You got to work on your game. You got to work on your craft. You got to be able to hit the shot when you're open. And I think he struggled with that a little bit last year. But I love this starting lineup. You said it right. They're young. There appears to be a ton of talent here. Everybody but Andre Drummond shoots a 3 better than 30%. Foul shooting is going to trip this team up late in games, though, because none of them are really good foul shooters. Let's be honest here. If for some reason, the only team that actually hits foul shots is San Antonio because they preach fundamentals. I think the best part, though, is we've got a ton of depth. If Brandon Jennings can come back and play at 3/4 what he did in that 20-game stretch, Jody Meeks comes and hits a few shots. Anthony Tolliver hits a few shots. He'll get some rebounding from Joel Anthony, and he's strong down low. I think we might have a playoff team. I think we have something here. But it all hinges on how these guys mature. Because you said it, Ilyasova, he's 28. He's the oldest guy out there. Andre Drummond's 21. It's a young cast, a real young cast. So Reggie Jackson's going to have to develop. He's going to have to mature. KCP is going to have to sit there and be able to step his game up. I'm really interested to see what Marcus Morris is going to be and what he's going to do, because he strikes me as a player who has some upside, strikes me as a guy who he can ball a little bit. I don't know if he's a starter, though. I think he's a guy who will basically be a play setter up until Stanley Johnson comes in, because what I've been watching with Stanley Johnson and doing everything he's doing in the Summer League, I think Stanley Johnson does project to an NBA player probably right around the 35-game mark. You'll see Stanley Johnson starting over Marcus Morris, and Marcus Morris will be coming off the bench as a rotational player. So I like what Stan Van Gundy's doing, man. He's got a lot of three-point shooters. He's got guys who can hit the three ball. He's got a lot of youth. He's sat there. He stretched this floor out, so it gives Andre Drummond a ton of space to work with. He's basically set it up for Andre Drummond to succeed, and if he fails, it's his own fault.
Yeah, while the moves weren't sexy, they're not going to win any press conferences. They're not going to make splashes or headlines. It's a team that, if coached well, can succeed and can hit shots. But it's all incumbent upon hitting those shots and playing well on defense. That's the mark of an SVG team is, hey, play solid on defense, knock down open shots, have good offensive sets, and this starting five can do that. It can compete, and you're always remembering that the East is not too dominant at the bottom 5 through 8. You can earn your way with 40 to 45 wins, surprisingly to say, into the playoffs. But this team can have success if they can find that groove. And if Brandon Jennings provides anything for you, then you have a chance to spell KCP and Jackson and have still a consistent second unit. And the Pistons have, in the last couple of years, had strong second units that have come on the floor and have played well and kept the team in games. Obviously, our goal is to win a title and to build a team, but I have now another new goal for the Pistons.
What's this?
I want the Pistons to get a player to turn down a $12 million option and take $1 million to play here. If the Pistons can win titles...
You got to win some back-to-back titles, man.
Saying. The San Antonio Spurs, I had respect for them before, but if you can get David West to turn down $12 million just by saying yes, to go to your team to play for $1.4 million, all hail the Spurs. That's unbelievable.
Dude, most teams take 5 years to sit there and rebuild. The Spurs took 5 hours.
LaMarcus Aldridge, David West.
5 hours to rebuild.
They're in the mix. They're always in the mix. They're definitely in the mix. They're going to want to send they're going to want to send Tim Duncan out with style should this be his last season. They're loading up LaMarcus Aldridge and David West. It's unbelievable. And then you're going to have continued success with Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green. That's a good team, and they're well coached. But the cachet that they have as an organization to draw in a free agent who wants a chance to win, and he says, okay, I'm going to turn down $12 million. I would never do it. Not to win. You got guaranteed if he gets hurt, if something freaky happens and your career's done. He's had a long career, but you take the guaranteed money. But that's what I want for the Pistons. Hopefully one player will turn down a max deal and or big time money and come to the Pistons, because we've won championships. SVG has turned it around, has made the Pistons a place to compete in basketball. That's my new goal for the Pistons.
You know what my favorite part about the Spurs is?
What's that?
It's Greg Popovich. It's the way he constructs his team, the way he builds his team. The fact that he goes to Uzbekistan and drafts players.
Yeah.
He just he'll draft a cactus, and somehow he'll get some production out of that cactus. It's amazing what that guy does. It's insane. I love the Spurs. They're great to watch.
It's going to be a fun time in the NBA. It's going to be a fun time the rest of the summer watching the Tigers. But for this episode, we are wrapping up. Great podcast. We want to thank Vito Chirco, who's going to be the host of the Tigers Talk podcast beginning July 29th. We want to thank Kacie Hollins for taking the time to introduce herself, talk a little bit about her interests, and she's the new weekend sports anchor at WXYZ. Great stuff. We're big fans of WXYZ here at the Detroit Sports Podcast. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. This has been episode 100, Detroit Sports Podcast. Thank you for all your support for the first 100, and we hope to do many, 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 many more.
Go Tigers.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head, they counsel me, they understand, they talk to me. They talk to me, they tell me things that I will do, they show me things I'll do.